Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I have a new birthday card to share with you. I just got the My Pet Kitties by Mama Elephant and I also got the Hexagons patterns by Honeybee Stamps. So I wanted to combine them. This adorable kitty that I'm stamping out with ink on 3, I know, no line coloring, is sort of grabbing something that is lower than him or herself. So I thought that I could combine it with the hexagons and then have it on one of the upper hexagons. Now it wasn't as easy as I thought that it would be, but however it worked out and I'm truly glad with how it turned out. So, doing some no line coloring today. In my previous no line coloring videos, I always said try to find an easy image. Personally, the body, the head of the cat, those are easy parts. They're big enough. Well, you have to do it in parts in my opinion, because you have the belly, then you have the legs. Well, there are some phases that you need to color this in. But then about the bow, that truly wasn't an easy part. It's too tiny, so I wouldn't recommend this image, but it worked out. Cannot complain about the end result, but if I would have known this ahead of time, then I wouldn't have taken this image. So I am first doing all the grays, so I'm going to use gold grays today to get this cat going. I started with C5, C3 and C2, and then when I was almost done I decided to add C7 as well, because 3 colors are often enough. But if you're doing no line coloring and you have, for example, a paw that is behind another one that should be sort of darker because it's covered with the rest of the body, then I noticed that I needed a darker color. So I was happy that I didn't start with C7 as being my darkest one, because then I wouldn't have this wiggle room. So this cat is going to be colored with the lighter colors first, and then I will decide to add a darker one, so adding more and more layers. And that's also why I am using the Perfect coloring paper, because this paper allows me to add a lot of layers. So here I'm going around the bow, and later on I will do the bow, but as I said, it was just too tricky for me. I couldn't get enough depth in there, I couldn't get the shadows right, and that's why I decided to later on add some pencils. In my opinion, the cat itself didn't need any pencils, but then since I was busy with the bow with pencils, I just took a gray pencil as well to add some more depth to the cat. But that you will see later on. Here I decided that I had to use a darker one as well, to get some sort of a difference between that paw that is grabbing something underneath the cat and the other one. Otherwise there was just not enough of a difference. So that's why an extra marker on the darker colors is really handy sometimes. So I'm just adding the C7 sort of everywhere a bit and then blending it out. I don't want to have a specific part of the cat being really with a dark shadow and then the other parts really light, so I had to go over everything. And that's a bit the tricky part, I think, personally, with the Copic markers, no line coloring. You just don't know when it's going to be enough. And you can start and have great shadowing, and then one element of your image can say to you, well, you need another shadow, and then you can start all over with adding the depth and the shadows that you already added. But the end result truly is worth the risk, I also think. I really like the end result of a no line colored image. If it's with watercolors, with Copic markers, with zigs, with Karen brush markers, whatever medium you have, I just really like the no line coloring thing. So I am trying to blend everything out. I cannot forget the tail, of course, because that one also needs the C7. And I also think that it's better to just add a little bit of the dark color and then add more and more if you want to have a darker effect. But if you add too much, then it's harder to get back to a light color version than that you can just add darker ones. So just go slowly, give yourself some time. Definitely when you're doing the edges, just take your time to go over them and go back and forth. And if you think this works, then you can stop. If you think that it doesn't work, then don't give up. Try to add a bit more. And if that isn't working, then unfortunately it didn't turn out. But try to add a bit more first before you immediately throw it away. It's a learning curve, and each image is different, and the end result of each image is also different. So here I am adding some blacks on the details of the cat using my MICRON Fineliner. With Copic markers I have some difficulties getting the facials on there afterwards, so I just decided that I was going to do that with a MICRON Fineliner, and so far I really liked it. I don't mind there being black because the Copic markers are really vibrant. With the distressings I prefer using, for example in this case, a grayish distressing to paint on the eyes and the whiskers. But with Copic markers it's so vibrant, I think it's just fine to do it like this. So here I'm working on that bow, and just, you will see, I just don't think there is any dimension going on. It just wasn't right. So at this stage I thought maybe I should just give up. Truly I did. And then I said to myself, no, you just color further, and then afterwards we can always take the pencils and just add some more dimension on it. So I went with that, and I just started coloring the face as well. And then I added pencils. So I know that normally when I'm doing no line coloring, that you can see sort of my coloring while I'm doing it. Here with the no line coloring and having to trace the lines, I really need to be sometimes straight on there with the marker. Then I can actually get a thinner point to color with. So that's why sometimes you don't really see me coloring because my hand is in the way or the marker itself. But that's when I try to get like a fine tip to work with. So here I noticed, and I didn't dislike it, but I had lots more shadows onto the face and onto the body. So once I am happy with the face, I definitely went back to the body to get some more dimension going so that it was a bit more balanced out. I added a lot of the darker color on the face, which is fine, but then if I would have kept it like this, then it was just not balanced out. So here I did a tip to tip, and this area was so small that my tip to tip was still as dark when I went to the lighter part. So I just took my colorless blender, sort of erased it, and then went back in with the lighter one. And here I decided to go bold with my shadows. I really needed more than what I already had, so I'm just fixing that, trying to get it as dramatic as I did the face. So far for the Copic markers, and then I took my book where I swatched all my pencils in, and I just go over all the papers with my colored image to see which colors fit perfect. I try to sort of go for a mid-tone version, or where I can go from my most impressive shadows towards the lighter colors, and I just write it down on a piece of paper, and then I take all the necessary pencils out. So yeah, create some more depth. So I tried here to add some more shadows there I thought it would be. Then I also took my white pencil to lighten up the ears because they were really dark. And then with the gray one I went over the body and face of the cat. Now what I try to do is I try to start most of the time on the darkest color and there get the right pressure of my pencil, because pressure is everything. Sometimes you need to go really soft with your pressure, sometimes you really need to push a bit harder. It really varies and it's hard to show you that because yeah, it's while I'm doing it that I differentiate between pressures. But I start in the darker area and then I move towards the lighter one. And you don't need to go completely over your whole area. You can stop, definitely. You can also go over everything. Sometimes it gives the idea of fur for pets and stuff, but you don't need to. If you go over the lighter area completely, then definitely soften your pressure, because you took, if you do the same as me, you took the pencil that is sort of a mid-tone. So if you would go with the same pressure as in the transition, go over the lighter area, well, then you will lose the dramatic effect that you created. So that's what I would suggest, really go softly then. But here I stopped after the transition. So onto the pieces for my background. This is the Hexagon Patterns by Honeybee Stamps. It came out, I think, a few years ago or last year. I don't necessarily know, but I know that I was in love then. But I couldn't get my hands on it. Well, European issues, of course. And it's also handy for like the wallet and budget. But now with Carte Nouveau you can get so many more brands, and well, I'm sort of trying to catch up with things that I really like but couldn't get my hands on. So I got this adorable stamp set. It's such a cute but also fun stamp set. These are hexagons and partial hexagons. What I love about it is, of course, the patterns. I'm going to do some ink blending today, so I'm first going to heat emboss it, and I'm going to use some clear embossing powder by Ranger. So I am using my Versamark, pressing everything really well and doing it a second time. But as you saw, this paper is so large. I did quite a lot of working on it with an anti-static powder too. And then I'm stamping it out a second time. So I'm pressing it down really well, and then I can add my embossing powder. Now I am trying to tap off all the excess. If necessary, I am using my paintbrush to get rid of the excess. But something that is handy about this is, of course, that I'm not going to use everything on here. So if there is embossing powder on the edges completely, I don't necessarily need to get rid of them. I will try. But if I forget something, it's just important that my images, my hexagons, are stamped out crisp and that the embossing powder there is sticking on the right places. So I'm making sure that everything is melted, and then I can do some ink blending with some really vibrant distress inks. So this paper is Neenah. So the other one that I used was the Perfect Coloring paper. For my ink blending I'm using Neenah because I really like the color that you can get on Neenah, and yeah, I just like blending on it. For the colors, I just decided to take some vibrant colors, some rainbowy colors, to go over each hexagon, and this way the pattern shows up. I also decided to do like 3 corners a bit darker and then just soften it out towards the rest. Now, as you maybe already saw in the beginning of this video, I'm not going to use all of these hexagons. The ones that are only partially, I couldn't really use with the design that I ended up with. But you know me, I have like a really vague idea of what I want to do, and then I just go with it and see where it leads me. So I just wanted to be sure that I had enough hexagons, and that's why I stamped them all out except for the completely filled ones, because there wouldn't be any point of ink blending over there. So each hexagon with a pattern was stamped out and then ink blended. And then afterwards I took the matching dies and I cut all of them out, which took me a while because some of them are the same size, so you only have one die, which is logical, but yeah, when you stamp everything out, it just gives you a lot of work to get everything die cut. So I'm doing my final hexagon here, and something that you can do when you do emboss resist is buff off the excess of the ink. So when you have inked up everything, then you just take a paper towel and you go over everything, just rub it, and then you will see that the ink sort of comes off of the embossing powder that you used. In this case I have a clear one, but I have white paper, so I have a white impression, and that's just how I did this. And then I took my time to really line up my dies to have like really gorgeous hexagons, because these are simple images. If your die cut is a bit offset, then it can already look a bit funky. I had that with my red one and I really wanted to use it because it was one of the vibrant ones, so I did that one again just to make sure that the die cutting went perfect. And so here I just had that idea of that cat grabbing downwards or going downwards, so I needed the cat to be on a higher hexagon than the rest, but let's be honest about it, I love hexagons, I love it, but they are a pain to get placement right. Also, these are not all the same size, they look the same size, the bigger ones, but there are two sizes. It's a slight difference, but there is a difference. And actually it took me quite a while to get placement going. I kept it in this video, I sped it up like 400 times, just to let you see how long it took me to get this, but truly it took me ages. It was incredibly, but I really wanted to use it. So I'm almost there. Did fiddle with it a bit more, of course, in the end. And then I was really smart. I took the present seal. I bought it just a few weeks back, and with one of my lost cards, like with the foxes from my favorite things, some of you said to me, well, if you have trouble with placement, just use present seal. And that was so clever, and I just bought it then, but I didn't think about it because I have never had it in my craft room. But today I thought about it and I was really proud of myself. So I just lifted everything with a present seal, and now I'm using that to get placement perfect, because of course if you're laying down things on your card base, some things are a bit wonky, but now with the present seal I could really get them straight and with sort of the same spacing between all of them. So that's what I did. And this rectangle that you can see is just cut out of Transotype perfect coloring paper. I used the basic rectangles by Mama Elephant to get some stitch details. And now I am going to make sure that my sentiment is placed correctly. And as you know from the beginning, this is going to be a birthday card, and I just love this sentiment. It's so funny with the oh wow in the beginning, and I just love it. So I stamped it out with Gina K Design Amalgam ink, and then I'm going to add all my elements. So I'm using the present seal to help me keep everything in place, and then I'm just adding lots and lots of score tape on the back of each of the hexagons. And then when I peel everything off, I can just align it and press it down onto my panel, and placement will be exactly the same. And I was so happy now that I have this present seal, because otherwise this card would have been so wonky. For the cat, I decided to add it later on because I wanted to use a combination of the foam tape as well as some liquid glue to really adhere it well. And then once that's on there, I decided to add a few embellishments as well, and of course adhere it to a card base. So just some liquid glue on the paws and then adding it like this. And then I'm going to add some embellishments. I'm using the bubbles from Little Things from Lucy's cards. I'm using them lately a lot. Not only from Little Things, a lot of brands have these bubbles in their variety of products. And I just placed them randomly a bit. It took me a while as well to get it completely perfect sequence. It's a struggle, and it will always be a struggle, but as long as you're happy in the end, then it's worth it. So I just placed them everywhere, took them away again, placed it on other spaces, and then I added them using some liquid glue. And once these are added, I can adhere this card panel onto a card base. Therefore, I prefer using a adhesive roller, just so you know. And then this card will be completely finished. So I truly hope that you, of course, like the end result of this card, but also that you enjoyed watching this video. With the Noline coloring, I know that coloring takes up a bit more time. I try to like minimize the video as much as possible, but sometimes I just need to let you see certain things at a certain speed to be able to show you something, so it can help you probably. So that's why it takes a bit longer, but I truly hope that you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, you can definitely leave them down in the comments and I will get back to you as soon as possible. If you're curious about which items that I used, I list them always in the description box, but also you can check out my blog post if you want to, and there are all the details as well. Thank you so much for taking the time to stop by on my YouTube channel and watching this video. I hope that you have an amazing day left, and I will be back soon with a new card. Bye!